Nissan is back with a new electric car. It's right here and it's called the Ariya. Yeah, that's enough of that. Jump on in, I'll tell you all about it. And we're off. And the last time I drove a Nissan EV, it was actually, well, the latest Nissan Leaf, which is a lot like the original Nissan Leaf. I guess when you've got a good thing, why change it? And you're probably wondering if this is just some giant Leaf in disguise, and let me stop you right there. The two cars are completely different. They may share the same surname as Nissan, but like Prince William and the artist formerly known as Harry, they have gone completely separate ways. In fact, I'm not even going to mention the old Nissan Leaf anymore because it's completely different. This is a completely new car, it's a whole new experience, and to be honest, it's a bit fancy. Where do we start though? Well, price and range, I guess. The Ariya will be available in 3 flavors in New Zealand, 3 different prices, 3 different spec levels. The entry-level version is the STL, and that is a front-wheel drive car with a 63 kilowatt-hour battery. All the specs are on the screen. The pricing should be accurate at the time this video goes live. Nissan should release the actual official prices, and they should be very close to what you see on the screen. Next level, the second level up, it's basically the same car, but it has things like seated heats and a few extra gadgets. That is the TI model. And then of course there's the top of the range one, the one I'm driving, which is, yes, you can see the price is pretty high. It's fancy, but it comes with everything. It's also quite grunty, and it's 4-wheel drive. I should point out though that this one I'm driving right now, well, it's British, isn't it? This one has things that the New Zealand market won't get. Things like Alexa built into the car. Also things like the map system right now is not really working because, like many maps, it has no idea where New Zealand is. But where it counts, this car will have all the tech you see before you. Let's talk comfort though, because this is a very comfortable car, and both the driver's seat and the passenger seat and the back seat all have seated heats. Yes, all seats in this car are heated. It's remarkable. Also, the driver's seat and the passenger seat have ventilated seats as well. And ventilated seats, it is the best way to keep your spuds cool. In the top spec model, both the driver and passenger seats are also electronically adjustable, and the driver's seat has electronically adjustable lumbar support as well. Oh yeah. Also, because of the height of the car, the driver's seat is really easy to get in and out of. It's just the right height, especially if you are of an advanced age like me. I'm not saying I'm really old, but my friends did take me to the Antiques Roadshow a couple months ago, and turns out they did it just to have me appraised. Rear seat passengers get a bit of comfort too. As you can see, there is a completely flat floor in the car, which makes the car feel so much more spacious. There's no transmission tunnel taking up all that room. And of course, rear seat passengers also get a fold-down armrest with cup holders in it. It's just generally a very spacious car. Look at all the leg room back there. And even though I'm 5'10", there's still a fair amount of headroom as well. It's say about another inch above my head, so you could possibly be about 6 feet tall and still ride in comfort in the back of this car. And that brings us on to space. How much storage is there in the car? Well, in some cars you might pop the bonnet and find that there's a fartment or front compartment, but not in this car. Lift up the hood and there is nothing there but componentry. Sorry, you're gonna have to store everything in the boot. And the boot, well, you can open it with either the remote control or just waving your foot underneath it. Look at that, how cool is that? And it has 466 litres of capacity in the front-wheel drive version and 408 litres in the all-wheel drive version. But if you drop the seats down, as you can see, there is plenty of room, almost enough to lie down comfortably. You might be able to get away with camping in the back of this. If you do, let me know. If you need more space though, the Nissan Ariya has a false floor in the boot, so you can remove those panels, and look at that, there's just a little extra space for storing cables or maybe tubers. And if you like extra storage, then you're gonna love this. The Ariya has a little compartment that opens up electronically in the dashboard by pushing this button here. Check this out. How cool is that? That is so wicked. It's got a little removable lid there as well, so you can store your potatoes, chuck it in there, and then you just close it. Check that out. I love that. That is so James Bond. On that note, let's talk gadgets, and where do we start? Because this car is dripping with technology. Let's start with the central display here. This is 12.3 inches, so is the instrument cluster. They're seamlessly joined together, and this controls absolutely everything in the car, and it's customizable as well. So you can add your own widgets in there, add your own weather, your own clocks, all that sort of stuff. This lets your imagination go wild. Also, this has a heads-up display, which shows more than just the speed. It even shows stuff like the song name of the song you're playing, and that's kind of handy because it means another reason you don't have to take your eyes off the road. As for connectivity, this has wireless Apple CarPlay. That's fantastic, but for some reason the Android Auto is wired, and that kind of ruins the look because you're going to have cables showing on your beautiful clean interior. And I do love the interior design. I mean, look at this, it's also got soft felt line stuff. I love the different use of textures in the car as well. Very, very nice. On the subject of phones though, it does also have wireless phone charging, and you put your phone in here in this little cubby hole there, and you can close the lid, still retain your armrest, and it doesn't obstruct anything. Everything just charges wirelessly neatly. I love it. The center console also has a little party trick. It's got buttons on the side here that if you press them, the thing moves entirely by itself electronically. Sure, it's about as fast as me on a stair lift, but look at that! It means that no matter how big or tall you are, you can adjust it so that it will fit exactly to have your arm right there. And the arm height here is excellent. Not so great on this side. Your arm falls down, but on this side, it is lovely. The center console is also where you're going to plug in all your equipment. Here on the front half, you've got your cigarette lighter outlet, then you've got your 2 USB ports, and on the back, you've also got 2 USB ports there as well. No shortage of places to plug in your devices. Plus, of course, as you saw, it's got wireless phone charging built in. Another toy this car has that I really like is the subwoofer built into the boot. It's such a compact, flat unit. The only downside is, as good as it is, it's so far away, and this is such a long car, that it's kind of rendered useless when you're going at speed, because sure, the car is relatively quiet, but it's a little subwoofer a long way away. It's working overtime. But one of my favorite features on this car, which is both functional and it's a gadget, is this massive panoramic sunroof. Lets a lot of light in, and of course, by pushing the button, you can open it right up. Illuminates the entire interior, which, let's face it, it's dark and grey, it needs it. But enough about gadgets and features. Let's take this thing on a bit of a road trip to not only see how it handles on the open road, but to see if that claimed range, which is pretty high, is anywhere near realistic. It's a new day and it's time to do a road trip. Let's drop it into drive and begin. Now I'm going to make a road trip from here in my house at Ecotricity all the way to Auckland Central for a very special delivery. Then I'm going to turn around and come all the way back here on one charge, and in theory it should be a piece of cake because officially the big battery version of this car with 4-wheel drive, well, it can do 513 k's per charge, but that's according to the WLTP official cycle. In reality, I think that this car will probably do more like 450 k's per charge. Only one way to find out. Let's do it. Now the eagle-eyed viewers among you are probably going to be saying, hang on, this test is not very accurate, because in New Zealand, the big battery version will be 4-wheel drive with bigger 20-inch wheels and tyres. So it's always going to get a little bit less than this Frankenstein creation that I'm driving, the 2-wheel drive big battery version, which will never be sold here in New Zealand. So it's going to be more of a ballpark figure. Consider it more like infotainment. As we settle into a long drive, let me tell you about the driving modes. And when I started, I put it into drive, as you saw, but if you push the selector back once again, it goes into B mode for a little bit of extra recuperation, gives you a little bit more range. But then, of course, you can go one step further. If you are driving predominantly in the city, E-pedal is brilliant. If you press that button, suddenly you've got one pedal driving. That means in the city you can basically drive without touching the brake in most circumstances. It gives you a little bit of extra range. It effectively turns braking into electricity, tops up the battery a little bit. But in the countryside it's kind of useless because the ideal thing is to pulse and glide. Although there are driving modes. If you're feeling sporty, you can press drive mode and go into sport mode. And then of course you've got standard, and this I'm going to put it into eco mode. Maximize the range. Eco mode plus B mode plus E-pedal means that you're basically driving an efficient beast, and we'll talk more about efficiency at the end of the video. All 3 versions of the Ariya come with intelligent cruise control, but this top spec model comes with Pro Pilot, which is basically does all your steering, does all your braking, and it will work on single lane roads like this. I turn it on, and now it's doing the driving and the steering for me. Now, as well as it can work on single lane roads, it's best suited to the motorway, like all of these semi-autonomous systems, because New Zealand's open roads, they're hilly and they're twisty and there's blind corners. It's safer just to turn it off and set the speed limiter instead to stop you getting a speeding ticket. Limit on to a maximum of 100. There we are. Sorry, Constable, no speeding tickets for me today. Welcome to Otorohanga, and now's a good time for me to dispense some wisdom, starting with where this car gets its name. The Nissan Ariya, pronounced like Ariya. Well, supposedly, it's named after the daughter of a marketing executive at Nissan, and the daughter's name was Ariya, which is kind of a cool story, although we should be glad her name wasn't Veruca. Gosh, this thing just coasts. If you've got it on normal drive mode, with E-pedal off, you take your foot off the accelerator, it just keeps going. It slows down so slowly. Let's now talk cornering, because this car is surprisingly adept considering its dimensions, its height, it's really quite surprisingly sure-footed in the corners. I mean, it's not as nimble as, say, a cat avoiding a bath, but putting all of its dimensions into perspective, it's surprisingly confident. And it's also very comfortable. I mean, that's largely in part to its 50-50 weight distribution, which is admittedly not very difficult with electric cars. It's not like a petrol car where you've got that heavy lump of Victorian-era combustion technology hauling around at the front. Of course, electric cars are much simpler. You can spread the weight out more easily. It's also really quiet on New Zealand's coarse chip roads. New Zealand's coarse chip roads, they're not only unforgiving to potatoes, but they're really, really loud. At 100 k's an hour in most cars, it's louder than your spouse coming home at 2 a.m. But this car really deadens that noise down. There's no low frequency roar going on. And part of the reason is good underlay, good soundproofing, but also if you look in the wheel arches, you'll see that there's this little bit of felt-like material they've applied in all the nooks and crannies, and it just makes the car slightly quieter on New Zealand's rough roads. As for dimensions, well, this is kind of similar in size to the Tesla Model Y with a couple of differences. First of all, the Tesla is slightly longer by a few centimeters than the Ariya, but the Ariya is actually slightly taller than the Tesla. So this is more of a sit-up and big vehicle than the Tesla is, but barely noticeably. One thing this car does have that the Tesla doesn't though is real sublime ride quality. The Tesla, as much as I love it, it is as hard as algebra driving over some of New Zealand's bumpy roads. This thing just glides. It is light years ahead in terms of comfort. Although it does have, as you can hear, a bit of motor whine. That comfort though makes road trips an absolute piece of cake. Like I've been doing 45 minutes of driving now and I haven't even noticed. It's just sublime. And you might be thinking that this 400-kilometer journey is kind of a waste of electricity and unnecessary emissions in the air from me, someone who claims to be an eco person. Well, this is where I've got you, because this entire journey is running on Ecotricity electricity. This car I charged at home in my own garage using Ecotricity electricity because Ecotricity is New Zealand's only certified climate positive electricity provider. It's not just carbon zero, it's not just carbon neutral, it's climate positive. So if you want to get in on that action, head to ecotricity.co.nz, couple of mouse clicks and boom, you've signed your house, your business over to Ecotricity. It's basically selling more than just clean electricity, it's selling hope. Plus, that electricity is also really affordable because it's only from wind, hydro and solar, no dirty gas, no expensive coal. It's so easy. Why wouldn't you sign up today? Give your kids a future, especially if you've seen that television program called The News, which I'm sure we all have. So sign up, and unless you don't like your kids, of course, in which case go to one of those other providers. If my guilt tripping has worked, then you'll be running off to Ecotricity's website very soon to sign up. That will buy me valuable time to get to Auckland. So while you sign up, I'll fast forward the segment and see you in the big smoke. Welcome to Auckland Central. We've made it. We're at the halfway point. We are at 64% state of charge, so we're doing all right. Now I'm going to pop into the office, drop off my special delivery, and then we'll head south. The only downside is it means I have to navigate the Ecotricity car park, and this is not a tiny car. Oh, that was close. And I know from experience when I had to drive the Hyundai Ioniq 6 through here, which is a deceptively large car, it is a bit of a challenge getting it around these tight spots. All right, let's make that delivery. With my cargo cleanly delivered to the birthplace of the flat white coffee, probably, it was time to hit the motorway and talk charging. We are on the motorway and now's a good time to talk charging, and if you are new to electric cars, the whole charging thing might sound kind of daunting, so I'll keep it real short, real simple. There are 3 ways you can charge this Nissan Ariya. Option 1 is to use the granny charger that comes with the car, but my advice to you is don't, because it's painfully slow, like 3 days to charge this car from flat to full. Also, the granny charger that comes with this car, well, like the car, it's British. It's got one of those horrific UK plugs on the end, which seems to be designed based on Stonehenge or British teeth. Option 2 is the best method, and that is to install a 7 kilowatt wall-mounted charger in your garage. It means you can charge your flat EV from flat to full overnight, and it costs next to nothing, like $15 for a full charge. It's nothing. Option 3 is rapid charging, and there are hundreds of DC rapid chargers all around New Zealand. ChargeNet is New Zealand's biggest provider, so if you're gonna get an electric car, sign up with ChargeNet, you won't regret it. It means you can drive basically anywhere in New Zealand using the DC rapid charging network. A rapid charge in this car from 20% to 80% full, if you're using one of the really, really fast chargers, it's going to take about 26 minutes or so, which is not too bad. And that's it, that's charging. Now, let's continue south. Well, I've just about made it back, and now is probably a good time, now that I've put several hundred Ks on the clock, to tell you what I like and don't like about this car, and we'll start with the things I don't like. Number one is that the steering wheel doesn't go down low enough for my liking, and even at its lowest setting, the top of the instrument cluster is obscured, so you're missing out on a bit of info. Next complaint is that despite all the tech in this car, there is no way to increase or reduce the temperature of the cabin without taking your eyes off the road. Of course, some fantastic looking display here, and there is voice commands, but you can only turn the air conditioning on or off. Next complaint is that there's no vehicle to load technology. There is no way to run appliances off this car or even potentially connect your house to it and have vehicle to grid or vehicle to home. Nissan haven't ruled it out entirely, according to some press releases I saw, but at the moment, it doesn't have that function. Another thing I don't really like is that the charging port's located on the first third of the car. It's not at the very front or the very back, and that means with some charging locations where the cables are shorter, it can struggle to get plugged in. And my last complaint is that there is no mobile app for this vehicle. There's no way to connect to your car and unlock it or lock it or check the status of the battery or even turn on the air conditioning. There is in the USA, but not here in New Zealand. As for things I like about it, well, it's a very comfortable car. It's a sublime ride and it's very quiet. There's no engine noise for obvious reasons. There's also lots of room in there if you're hauling kids, and the back doors open up almost 90 degrees. That's a little Nissan speciality. It's just a great family car. The next thing I love about this car is the tech involved, specifically the self-parking functionality. I'll never get tired of this technology. It will always blow me away. And the last thing I like about this car is the battery heater built in. It means that in the middle of winter on those cold, frigid days, when you're about 30 minutes or so away from your charger, turn on the battery heater, and when you get there, it'll charge nice and fast. Welcome back to Te Kuiti. We've made it, and we've got still a fair amount of electricity left over. We've got just shy of a quarter of a charge left, and we've done almost 400 kilometers. As for economy, let's have a look. My economy has been 15.6 kilowatt hours per 100k, and that's actually very good considering, one, the size of the vehicle, the weight of the vehicle, and the fact that I've driven it actually pretty hard. I haven't babied it, I haven't hyper-miled, I've driven quickly, and I have also been using the air conditioning non-stop since I got in the car and got to Auckland and got back. So I've worked this hard. 110 k's an hour on the Waikato Expressway. It's not been babied. So that's pretty decent economy, and we're just about to hit on 400 k's. That's pretty good. But now, with all that said and done, let us do a spud score. Performance is first, and I can only give it a default score of 5 out of 10 because this press car is not the dual motor beast that Kiwis will have. Handling's next, and 6 out of 10 here. It's a larger, taller vehicle, but it does very well. As for comfort, well, 6 out of 10 again. It's quiet and not too firm, and I would give it 7 spuds if only the aircon was stronger. On sunny days above 28 degrees, that air conditioning unit can't quite cope with that big dark interior. Efficiency's next, and 7 out of 10. Even at speed, driven hard, it gets excellent economy for its size. How about gadgetry? Well, it's got it all, from self-parking to James Bond-like electronics, but not vehicle to load, so 7 out of 10. Value's next, and I'm giving it 3 out of 10 because despite the luxuries and that predicted performance, this top-spec model is priced on the luxury end of the market. As for charging, it gets 6 out of 10 for its peak charging rate of 130 kilowatts. That's above average for 2024. How about style? Well, the outside's sleek but unadventurous, however the interior is stunning, so I'm giving it 7 out of 10. Is it fit for purpose though? Well, it's tough to say without a reference, so comparing it to the Model Y performance, it falls short in terms of charging and grunt and tow rating, but wins in ride quality and gadgetry, so as a family car with good access for kids' seats that also goes quick and doesn't pollute, I'm giving it 6 out of 10. And lastly comes the PSC, and at just 36 tubers, it could do better, but I love the button-operated spud access, so I'm giving it 5 potatoes out of 10 in this crucial metric, which gives the top-spec Nissan Ariya a total spud score of 58. There you have it. That's the Nissan Ariya in a nutshell. It is several steps above the Nissan Leaf if you've ever driven one. I mean, it goes faster, it's got more tech, it charges faster, it's got a liquid-cooled battery, all that sort of stuff. Nissan's marketing team might have a problem though, because they're going to have their work cut out for them, because for years, people have associated Nissan, an electric car, with the Leaf. It's kind of sensible, kind of boring, but this, well, this is anything but.